Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and this week we have been invited into the kitchen at 715 in Lawrence, Kansas. We're going to make a Porchetta Panini and pair it with a rich wine from Italy. Before we get in the kitchen and start cooking, we're going to talk with one of the owners and general manager, Matt Hyde. Matt, thank you for inviting us
Thanks
into
for
your
being
kitchen.
here. Thanks for being here.
What a great space. Let's talk about the concept for 715.
Michael and I worked together for several years before we came up with the idea to do the restaurant. Michael Beard, the chef,
Yes.
and my business partner in the restaurant. And we wanted to do a place where we got to serve his food in a comfortable atmosphere and make it really accessible to people. We wanted to make sure that it was casual, not too stuffy. We wanted it to be affordable.
Yes.
We wanted there to be a nice range of prices, a nice range of cuisine. So if you want to just stop in and get something small, like a sandwich, great. If you wanted to come in for dinner and have steak or fish or a pork chop, that'd be great too. So we wanted to have kind of a versatile thing. We wanted to be on Mass Street. You know, I've lived in this town 20 years, and it's always been a dream to have a restaurant on Mass Street in Lawrence. And so, you know, we've been open almost 2 years, and we're thrilled with how it's going. We're thrilled with the support that we've been getting. And every day I get to eat his food.
So there's a perk.
That's a perk right there.
That's amazing.
And you know, you meet people from all over the world in a college town.
Because it's a college town.
It's a college town, and so we get to meet all these great people, and they basically pay us to do what we love to do. So I feel like I'm
great circumstances.
cheating in some way. I'm cheating the karma thing. Like, you're paying me to do what I love to do.
I think you're supporting.
I love it.
You're supporting the karma thing. Okay, a tagline to the restaurant is handmade.
Yes.
Tell me what that means for the people come in, your diners. What does it mean?
Well, you know, the building, before we moved into this space, it was a jewelry store for 30 years called Silverworks Jewelry Shop. Jim and Kara Connolly owned it. They're some of our business partners in the restaurant venture. And you know, this building, this is original stone. We reclaimed all the wood during the renovation, and that turned into these benches and the walls. And so handmade, this building was made by hand. And then the food that he makes, you know, we get whole animals in here. He butchers those animals. He's you know, he grew up in Oklahoma, but he studied butchery in Italy. And so there's a real, you know, all the pasta's made every day. All the meat is butchered in the house. And so they go to the farms. We visited, you know, we've been to the slaughterhouse where our beef comes from. You know, we've been to the ranches where the food is raised. You know?
So you have a real connection with food product providers for this restaurant.
Yeah, and the reason we do that ultimately is because the food is better. It tastes better. It's not coming from a big political background where we say it has to be this way or it has to be that way. The food is better. We like meeting these people. We like taking our kids to the farms. We like getting to know people that do this for a living. Our passion is to prepare and serve food. Their passion is to raise food. So even though you might be a farmer, you know, in central Kansas, not around people all day, and I'm around a couple hundred people at night, the goal is the same thing, to make people happy and to be proud of what you're doing.
All right, how did you get to 715? What was your journey to this restaurant?
Some of that we can't talk about.
Okay, well, the parts that we can talk about, what might they be?
I ended up in Lawrence on a whim in 1992 and started washing dishes at another restaurant and ended up being the general manager there, and met Michael Beard there, and ultimately, you know, you're a dishwasher at a restaurant. If you decide,
that's learning all the pieces and parts of the business, though.
It is. So I've worked in restaurants for more than 20 years, and you know, when you start out in a restaurant or any job, your dream is to get to the top.
I think you can feel a genuine passion and excitement, and probably that's what helped you form the team that has delivered 715 to Lawrence, Kansas.
It's fun. It's fun. What we're doing is fun. We're not pilots.
I have to tell you.
We're not surgeons.
Right.
Okay? You know, we're not teachers, like school teachers. So what we're doing ultimately is providing a forum where people get to live their life. You know, so many things that you celebrate or commiserate about or contemplate with the people you love, it happens around the table. And so to create an atmosphere where people can come and share those experiences with everybody from their coworkers to their lovers to their spouses to their children, everybody, that's important. That's an important part of life. So I feel like even though it's not this, we're not saving the earth or exploring uncharted territories, you know.
We're taking care of the people who do that sort of thing. You're feeding us and nurturing us. So.
And there's something really rewarding about that.
I think we should go talk to your partner and executive chef, Michael Beard, and then we're going to go in the kitchen and make some of that handmade food.
Save some for me,
okay,
please.
if you're good.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Bonnie, for being here.
We continue our chat with the chef here at 7:15 with their executive chef, Michael Beard. Michael, thank you for inviting us into your kitchen.
Sure,
Let's talk a little bit about the concept for the food and what you are creating here in your kitchen.
Well, I believe that with cooking, I feel like you need to find the best quality ingredients as you can, and then prepare that in a way that is represents those ingredients and not overdo it. So it's just kind of like basically get the best product and don't mess it up like cooking it, overcook it.
Maintain the integrity of the food.
Absolutely.
And your training was in a country where that is a priority. You were trained in Florence, Italy.
Sure.
I'm seriously jealous about this, Michael. Tell us, what was the school and what did you take away from that training?
Well, I went to Apicius Culinary Institute in Florence.
Do you speak Italian?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you do now.
I do now.
You do now.
It took a long time and
It's
a lot
a
of.
beautiful language.
It is a beautiful language, and I figured if I was going to learn, I've always been very passionate about Italian cuisine, but you know I was raised just kind of on Italian American cuisine,
Which is different from what happens in Italy, especially
Absolutely.
northern Italy.
Sure.
Yes.
And so when I was deciding on becoming a chef, there was no question I was going to study Italian cuisine. So I figured the best way for me to learn would be to go there, whereas I'm not just learning in a classroom, I'm learning walking down the street, I'm learning going to the markets, I'm learning just by hearing, by smelling, by seeing, just daily life.
So you were submerged into the culture
Sure.
and all pieces and parts of it. So that was part of your training I've heard other chefs who were trained in France. You went to the market and then went into the kitchen. Did you do that?
Sure, absolutely, yep. And the places I worked, you know, we had good relationships with the farmers and the butchers, and so, you know, you definitely saw the different segregations of each part of the industry over there, more so than you see here, because usually there's just a lump person that provides the whole, all the ingredients for one restaurant.
Right.
And so over there you see each individual, and everybody is passionate about what they're doing. And that's the thing, you know.
And the cheeses and the olive oil and the balsamic vinegars, each
and the wine.
and the wine, of course, the wine. But each one of those food product makers are passionate about their product. So
Absolutely.
you had one-on-one relationships with them.
Yeah, and then you know, basically you find somebody that, and it doesn't matter what industry it is, you find somebody that's passionate about what they're doing, and it shows in their product. And so, and that's what we try to do here, is find people who care about what they do, and you know, we basically benefit from that.
Okay, so you took the concept around food making from Italy, brought it here to Lawrence, Kansas, and have, to the best of your ability, replicated that here at 7:15.
Sure, yeah, but we also, you know, I'm from southern Oklahoma, so I have a little bit of southern style cuisine in me, and I throw that in there. I mean,
That's
there's
comfort food.
absolutely, you
Yeah.
know, in the wintertime, and you know, it's fun for me because you know, just being able to cook things that remind me of certain times in my life, and it reminds other people of certain times in their life, and people are familiar with different types of cuisine that they've had over their lives, and yeah, it's just fun to be able to transfer what I've known just by growing up in Oklahoma, and then combine that with what I've learned in Italy.
All right, so the combination of the comfort southern food with what you learned in Italy, and we find that here at 7:15.
Sure, yeah,
So I think that you and I should go into the kitchen.
absolutely.
Okay, tell us what we're going to make.
Well, As far as the street food in Italy, the Porchetta Panini is probably the one that you see most often in Tuscany. You see these little street cars, and you'll see it basically with the whole pig roasted in there, and they'll just slice it off there and put it on a panini and send you on your way.
So we're going to go in the kitchen and we're going to make a porchetta panini. We're going to pair it with some wine, and then we've got a celebrity taster in to taste your creation.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Why don't you join us in the kitchen? Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and now we are in the kitchen at 17 with their executive chef, Michael Beard. We're about to prepare one of their signature dishes. It is a porchetta panini, and we're going to begin with the pork.
The pork.
Chef, what do we have here?
So at 7:15, we get our own pigs in, so it allows us to be able to process and butcher the way we want it to butcher. So we're able to basically, this right here is the loin.
Yes.
And so what we do is we keep that intact with the belly, and then this is the tender one we pull off there.
And where would the bacon, what part of this would, I see where the bacon.
Oh, this is the bacon right
That
here.
is
So
the
this is the
bacon
belly.
right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We keep this basically the loin on, tender loin, and then we're just going to roll this up with some nice seasoning.
Okay, Chef, we have a mise en place of seasoning. What are we looking at?
So right here we just have some fresh sage and rosemary, just chopped, fresh ground black pepper, some fennel seed, salt, chopped garlic, and this is a spice blend of like cinnamon, ginger, little clove, and nutmeg.
Okay, and is this kosher salt?
That's actually sea salt.
Sea salt, all right. And what do we have here? A necessity, I know.
This right here, after we cook the porchetta, we get the lard, the fat off of it, and that's what we use to cook our eggs and potatoes in for our brunch.
Okay, all right, so you're going to begin seasoning.
Sure. Yep. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make just a mixture here.
Is
So-
this like a rub?
Just a rub,
It's a
yep.
rub, okay. And I'll remind our viewers that the recipe for this will be on the website.
Sure. And so you want to mix that up nice and evenly.
Oh, it's so fragrant
Very
now
aromatic.
that, yeah.
And so this,
Interesting mix of, you wouldn't picture cinnamon and nutmeg with those herbs, but whoa, it works.
sure, yeah,
Oh.
absolutely, yeah. And so this seems like a lot of seasoning or salt as well, but you got to think as this is very, very a big piece of meat. I mean,
It's huge.
this thing weighs almost 20 pounds. So, and then we're going to let it sit overnight, so it has to basically marinate. It's just like a dry rub, and you just want to let it sit. So a lot of that salt is not going to actually, it's just not going to be over salty. It's going to actually bleed out with the liquid that it pulls out from the meat.
So we just need to be mindful of that when we're doing a dry rub, and even when we're grilling, so much of the seasoning falls off, or in this sense, it marinates and then drips off.
Sure,
Okay.
yep. So basically I'm just going to get this
Pretty.
nice and rubbed down.
I think it's helpful for us to see exactly what it needs to look like once the seasoning's on it. This is the look, the density of seasoning that we're looking for.
Sure. Yep.
Okay,
And I'm just
and
going to do just rub that in nice, massage it into the meat. Make sure you get these input pieces as well.
We forget to do that because we just look at the top, but of course it needs flavor all around.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Try to get all exposed parts. Now we leave the skin on the back side of this, so
Okay.
so that actually provides a protective barrier for whenever you're cooking it.
So it actually it helps preserve the moisture
Sure.
when you keep the skin on. So
Absolutely.
just to know that. All right, now what do we? Oh,
So we're gonna just
wow.
get this part right here real good.
Okay.
So we're just gonna roll this guy up like so,
Okay.
and if I can get you to hold
You
that
know
just
you
like
can. I can do this. I'm
So
a
we
lot
just have
stronger
some-
than I look.
some butcher twine here.
Okay.
So we try to keep it to where where it seals at the top here, and so that'll allow that skin to really protect that meat and keep it moist.
It helps to have a helper in the kitchen when you're doing this part.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also more fun cooking with people.
You know it is, and we always encourage families to cook together. In fact, we have a feature devoted to cooking with kids because I think the more you involve your children in food selection and preparation, the better decisions they're going to make about what they eat, the closer they feel to that.
Absolutely, and even when you
And I know you have little ones at home, and so this is good. Chef, the pork is in the oven. Now we're going to make the egg, and then we'll be able to assemble the sandwich. So how do you do that?
Okay, so basically I'm just going to take some of that nice fat that we had left from our previous porchettas. This is nice, rich fat. It's got nice flavor from all those
And we're seeing
ingredients.
so many of our chefs now using duck fat and pork fat
Well,
in
you,
the place of butter.
yeah, well, you pay for it, you might as well use it, right?
You know you did, and you do. At home, if you're using butter or whatever your fat source is to get the pan warm, the fat melted, and then turn the fire down.
Sure, yeah. Yeah,
Okay, and you're
then
going to show us the technique here.
And I usually keep the pan kind of tilted.
I'm noticing that.
So
Okay.
it'll keep it nice and compact.
Okay. Ah.
So the egg stays down there in the bottom.
I'm going to do this the next time I make an egg chef. This is, and you can tell the fresh egg because that little yolk's right standing up, paying
Sure,
attention.
yeah. So season a little bit with some sea salt.
Sea salt. And so you use sea salt more than kosher salt. I bet that's from your Italian training.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is.
But you know, with a lot of our steaks that we cook, we do use kosher salt
salt
just
for
so
that.
because we can feel it a little better. This is a porchetta that we use on our brunch. We add the egg on it to make it a little bit more brunch-like. The lunch one, we don't use the egg
Okay.
because you know, some Italians might be. That's just our little addition to the porchetta panini.
Okay. We won't tell anybody in Italy we did it. It'll be our secret.
All right.
Okay.
Nice over easy. Go ahead. Turn off your.
Okay, chef, the egg is made. The pork has roasted. We're ready to assemble and make our panini. How long was this in the oven?
Well, we do it as an internal temperature, so it's at a real slow temp for. We cook it at 160.
Oh, really low. Okay.
Really, really low. I mean, it's more of an overnight type of deal
Okay.
until we get it to about the 140, and then we crank up the oven to about 425. Blast it, makes
And
it
get that
skin
gorgeous
nice
skin.
and crispy.
Okay.
And then we want to cook it up to 155 degrees.
All right, so that's the internal temperature. Your meat thermometer should read 155 before you take it out of the oven.
Well, you can
At the,
a little bit before. It's going to carry up a little bit,
It's gonna
but
carry up.
somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Okay. All right, so
So I'm just going to take our Porchetta Panini bread here.
gorgeous. You could use a ciabatta.
Sure,
for
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
You can use, and so you can see like this nice crispy skin here. And most people in the States their palate doesn't really like that crunchiness, but in Italy or in most European cities, they really enjoy the crackling a
Okay.
lot.
So if we asked for the crackling when we came into
if
715,
it's, if
could
it's
we
a
get it?
fresh porchetta that we
Yep.
just pull out of the oven, we could definitely give it
You
to you.
could
but-
do that. So at least ask.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
ask.
If you want it, we'll give it to you.
All right.
So we just slice
And
this
how
guy.
long did you let this rest before we begin slicing?
I usually let it rest at least 30 minutes.
Okay, because
Uh,
this is a thick piece of
Sure,
meat.
yeah, it's not like a steak or something you want
Gorgeous.
it to go.
Oh,
And the thing about this is it's nice and juicy, and that fat, you know, it's part of the belly, so it has that nice belly fat in there, and that's
tender. Oh.
and we use that basically like the condiment. You know, we don't add any other ingredients
So
to it.
we don't need mayonnaise because we have this.
Sure, you have that nice glistening
And
fat.
the aroma is sensational.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so don't need any spreads. It's built into the pork.
Yep.
And this is provolone, and you chose a milder cheese not to
Not to-
interfere with the pork.
Absolutely. Just let it be nice and mild. Let the pork stand up. And then I'm just going to take my egg here.
That's such a happy egg too. Okay.
And then basically do this right here. And then I add just a little bit of olive oil on the top of this bread to give it a nice color when I put it in the panini press.
Okay. And if you don't have a panini press at home, you can use a skillet and just weight the top of it and turn it over, and you've got a similar result.
All right, so I'm just going to basically put this in the panini press. Now I want to put that down nice and soft because I don't want that egg yolk to break. And then once I get some grill marks on it, it should be ready to roll.
Okay, chef, you know, we eat with our eyes first. Let's plate up this creation.
Sure. This is our brunch porchetta panini. we're just going to put that on the plate there.
Gorgeous.
And so, you know, we'll sometimes open that up and put the egg
You're
on.
showing off the inside, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And then we pick that with some nice pickled veg. This is like carrots, onions, cauliflower, and a little bit of turnips.
All right, I know you make this in-house, but if we were creating this panini at home, we could get a pickled vegetable off the shelf
Sure,
as well.
yeah.
You're looking for some crisp, tart side to go with this.
Absolutely. You're just looking for some acid to go along with that nice and rich sandwich.
Okay, Chef, speaking of going along with, I think now we need to go to the bar and pair this dish with something to drink.
That sounds like a great
Okay.
idea.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and we have just been in the kitchen at 715 in Lawrence, Kansas, with their executive chef Michael Beard preparing a signature dish of porchetta panini. Chef, what should we drink with this dish and why?
I recommend we drink this Tomaresco and Naprica.
What's the flavor profile of this?
Well, this is a blend between Primitivo, which is Zinfandel, Cabernet, and Negro Amaro, which is a nice rustic style of grape from southern Italy, Apulia, the heel of the boot. So with that sandwich, we have quite a bit of richness, the fat in there and stuff. So this wine here, I think, will pair well because it has a nice acidity, so it kind of cleanses that palate, but it still has enough body to stand up to those flavors.
Okay, Chef, we have a celebrity taster, Stan Hurd, an Earthworks artist. He's
Sure.
coming in, he's going to taste the food and sip the wine. It'll be up to him to tell us if it works.
I hope it works out. I'm sure he'll tell me if it doesn't.
You will. Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and this week we have been in the kitchen in 715 in Lawrence, Kansas. The chef has made a porchetta panini. He's paired it with an Italian red wine. And to taste this creation is Earthwork artist. I said that, didn't I? Yes, Stan Hurd. Stan, thank you for taking time out from your creations to come here to 715 and be our celebrity taster.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's awesome. This is one of my favorite restaurants. I'm here 3 times a week.
Okay, then you've had good experience
I've had
tasting
great
the food.
So what we have here is a porchetta panini from, this is a traditional Tuscan style porchetta.
I'm cutting this creation in half, but Stan, you've got to taste it.
I'm going to jump into it.
This is your assignment. You taste it and tell us what
Wow.
you're tasting and why you might like it, and then sip the wine and tell us all of that.
I'm going to do the same thing and cut
Okay.
it right in half so that
Okay.
I can get my hands around
I
it
know.
and not make a fool of myself.
We wouldn't even think of
It
it.
does look
But
wonderful. And porchetta, I grew up on a hog farm, so I raised pigs back in my day.
so you've done a good job of
Shall we?
preserving this heritage pork. Yes.
My father would be proud of me.
Good for him and you. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I love the softness of the whole thing, just the presentation and
You know, Chef spent a long time slow cooking this Duroc
That's the secret.
pork. It is.
that's the secret.
We've spent, our culture is so into, or has been so into fast food. This is an entirely different movement of slow cooking where we really respect the food that we're preparing. I better take one more bite and then we're going to have to sip the wine.
Did you, what is the cheese again?
Provolone.
Provolone?
And a fried egg. How Italian is this?
That is awesome.
Well, you know, Chef was trained in Italy, in Florence, Italy. Thank goodness he came back to America.
It's amazing that
I
we
know.
got him back there.
I know, we're fortunate.
I'm going to have one more bite before I sip my wine. I'm spilling things, but that is
That's
amazing.
amazing. Tell me what you're tasting. Okay, the cheese is so delicate, and it
It's-
sort of balances the.
It's there, but the pork is
Pork is king.
is king, right? And
Yep.
you definitely just the subtleness of it. I mean, pork overcooked is not right. This is some of the best pork I've had. It's awesome. Okay, I'm going to say.
Okay,
I'm going to say.
and now to your health and to life.
Here's to 715 and our chef.
715 and our chef. sweeter than I thought it was
It
going
is a
to
little
be.
bit sweet, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. I see why Chef paired it with this dish. It's
And it's a kind of a blend. She's had
Cabernet
Zen.
Zen.
and,
Okay, now
That fits perfect with the pork.
it
as far as
fits
I'm concerned.
perfect with this. What a great pairing. It
Wonderful.
would be helpful for our listeners and viewers to know what an earthworks artist does.
Well, it's historically a term for artists that took art outside of the museum, outside of the kind of the commodification of art, and began to create works on the landscape. Smithson, Heiser, Walter Di Maria, a lot of these folks that preceded me, Christo. What I did was when I graduated college, or I got out of college, I didn't graduate. I began to create giant images on the land, but they were representational, using crops and using them essentially as a platform for the discussion of man's relationship with the landscape, since I grew up on the farm.
Since you grew up on the farm, so a standout for me, of course, is Amelia Earhart.
Right.
And now let's give our viewers an understanding of the scope of this artwork. What, acres? How big
The
is
smallest was in front of the Spencer Museum, which was, would fit in this room, and the largest 160-acre portrait, so 160 football fields in size, so rather large.
this? Rather large. All right, I know Kansas because this is near home. What other parts of the world can we find, or could we have found your artwork?
I've been to Europe a couple of times, created the commercial pieces in London. Also, one of the most interesting probably was Havana, Cuba. I traveled down and as kind of an opportunity to create a cultural exchange between Cuba and the United States. I went with a group and we created a permanent portrait down there that's being maintained in Havana that we hope will lead to something down the road, a relationship.
Well, you know, I forgot the name of this individual, but the quote was something like, "You can tell the general health of a society by how they care for their art, both in their education and as a culture." And you've taken your art all over the world. You've been a wonderful steward
Well,
of our
thank you. I
land.
appreciate that. And I think we're trying to, currently in the state of Kansas, we're having some troubles with support for the art. But we artists are here. I work with Kevin Wilmot in film, Louis Copt. There's a vibrant art scene in Kansas. Kansas City certainly, but Lawrence also, and other parts of the state. So we believe that there's a prairie renaissance going on here.
Prairie renaissance,
and
I
that
like
renaissance includes these wonderful chefs that come back here.
It does. This is art, and this is their
Absolutely.
and this is their
In its
creation.
presentation and in its taste.
Again, for our listeners, Duroc pork is one of those breeds that has not been genetically modified. It is preserved the flavors and the nutrition that pork brings to the table. Oh, it's delicious.
Wonderful.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your creation to enjoy the creation of Executive Chef Michael Beard and what Matt Hyde has created here in Lawrence, and for those of us in Kansas City to come and enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, your host of In the Kitchen with Bonnie. This week we are pleased to bring you the second of a new series, In the Cellar by Marquis Selections. We are in the wine room here at the Gaslight Grill, and with me is one of the owners of Marquis Selections, Chris Cribb. Chris, thank you for inviting us into your cellar. This week we're going to talk about the wines of Portugal.
Yes.
But before we begin doing this, let's talk a little bit about Marquis Selections, how you came to be, and the concept for what you do.
Okay, sure, Bonnie. Well, thank you for having us. We're excited to be in partnership with you guys in the kitchen. Good food needs good wine,
It
so
does,
I
yep.
think this is a good marriage. And thanks to the Gaslight Grill for letting us work in this beautiful little cellar. Marquis Selections started about 8 years ago. Got a couple partners in Kansas City here that one of them was a wine collector, and we were working in operations in Australia looking for new business development. And the thing that we found was a lot of small wineries that could not come to the United States by themselves. The market is very tight. There's a lot of big players and small players, not a lot of people in the middle. And so what we did is we put together a group of those small wineries from Australia and developed our own brand of wines, Marquis Australian Wines, which we have and still grow the business every day. And from there, we developed a nationwide network of wholesalers and distributors that help to bring our products to market. The focus for us has changed over the last couple of years, where we moved from just one winery in Australia to working with several wineries in different regions. We've got 8 different producers, and the thing that ties them all together is that they have this real green, sustainable, organic passion for their wine making.
And it is a common thread for the chefs and the restaurateurs that we work with, this devotion to organic and sustainable. And I think it is not only good business, but to care for the earth, that for the future generations, and we can still eat and drink very well doing that.
Yes,
Yes.
I really think that the test has really been shown that if you do things correctly and you are the shepherd, whether it's with the food that you're making or the wines that you're creating, and you shepherd it in with care and without the pesticides, herbicides, any of that stuff, that you can have a great product.
You can have a great product.
And we've got a couple new ones here for
All
you
right,
today.
let's talk about
show.
Portugal. What part of Portugal? Why this winery?
Sure. We decided to get involved with Portugal 2 years ago, and we are working with a winery, 2 different wineries, and a group called Wines and Winemakers by Savin. The wines are, we have a Clemen, it's a Vinho Verde, and we have a red blend, Duro, which is called Lua Nova.
Okay.
And these 2 wines and the winemakers that we're working with are focused on trying to do things with old vines, and specifically the products themselves are handcrafted, estate-grown, single vineyard products. So when we found what we were looking for, we decided that the other thing about Portugal is Portugal's been known for
port.
Yes,
For port,
for
okay.
many years. And these 2 wines you'll see are not port. They
No,
are
they're not.
table
So we were
wines.
surprised they're table wines. Okay.
So, and the thing that Portugal, the winemaking tradition there has been able to do is they always made their own table wines. They just didn't export them. And so now this is the best of the best we found in looking at table wines that are for everyday drinking. And you'll find in the red wine, for example, there are some of the 23 varietals that they use in making port. They're now just making table wines out of. Touriga Franca is one of the main grapes that's in this red wine, and it's
a rich smell.
yeah, it's very rich. It's got a powerful nose. It's got some of that bright dark fruit, you know, more like the cassis, a little bit more like blueberries. The Portuguese wines are made in a little more dry style. People talk about Old World and New World.
Okay.
Old World refers basically to Europe and the continental countries like France, Spain, Portugal included. And their winemaking tends to be a little bit more earthy. And New World is basically everybody else. California, you know, Australia. And those are more fruity wines. So these are a little bit more minerally, a little bit more earthy.
What would you pair with this red wine?
So this red wine, like I said, a blend of Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, a number of other grapes that I can't pronounce.
Okay, but they're in there.
Yeah, I would pair this with, you know, something pretty substantial.
Wonderful.
You know, like a
Red meat.
Yes, a red meat. You know, something like a.
You could do
big
barbecue
steak.
with this,
You
couldn't you?
could.
You could do barbecue.
You know, as a man from Kansas City, I love my barbecue.
Yep,
So
got-
you know,
yep.
I'd say that barbecue would be able to fit there. I think that you could even go as much as trying to do it with like I like this with like a real dry cheese. You know, like a.
And what about like a blue cheese or a stronger cheese? Would you do that?
Yeah, a blue cheese would stand up to it as well. You know, I love really fresh or aged cheddar. You know, that'd be an interesting one there as well. But that's the red wine, and the region that comes from is the Douro. The Douro is if you think of Spain and Portugal as the Iberian Peninsula altogether, Portugal runs along the eastern coast, and the Douro River is the river that runs through Porto, where they used to make port. And it runs inward, and the Douro region is where I believe the best table red wines are made in all of Portugal. So next we have the white wine.
Okay,
and this
what do we
is
have
the
here?
Clemen Vinho Verde. It is a Reserva, and it is the 2009 vintage. It has a blend of Trejadura and Alvarinho.
I'm not familiar with any of these grapes, and it's a very unique nose for a white wine.
Yes, it's got a very bright nose. It's got like apricot to it. It's got a little bit of peach to it. What we find is that Vinho Verde is the region is the highest, the most northern region in all of Portugal. There's that little bit that comes out of Spain right above it. And what Spain makes right there are wines called Albarino. So the grape Albarino and the grape Alvarinho are the same, just two different winemaking practices because of the different countries. So that's what this is. The Clemen is also, and Vinho Verde is also a little lighter. They do it with a little lighter alcohol. So this is about 11% alcohol. You know, you go to your regular store, most of your wines you're going to find between 12.5 to 14. Big reds are 15 plus, but you know, so that's a little bit lighter.
Okay, and so what temperature for both of these? You would serve the red at?
The red I would do right at just a little chill off room temperature. You know, it's big enough, it's bold enough that it is something that it would take a little bit of that alcohol hotness out of it. The white, right at you know, fridge temperature. You know, I'd be going
pretty
that
cold.
40. Keep it pretty cold. It's just going to be light and crisp, and what you'll find is as it gets a little warmer, it will get a little bigger in your mouth. And this wine has a little bit of what they call frizzante, which is just a little tiny bubble. You'll get that feel like just like a little bit of like when you have a soda.
It does.
You just get it on the tip of your tongue, where it kind of tickles your tongue. So that's one of the hallmarks of Vinho Verde.
And what would you serve the Verde with?
Oh, I think this is a great fish wine. You know, I think that it would be lovely to stand up to almost anything in that realm. I like to drink this with a lot of different big healthy salads too. I think that anything with some fruit in the salad would be nice for this, because this is.
It likes fruit.
It likes fruit.
It likes fruit.
And then the red wine, you know, I think the Lua Nova would be. It's big. It's ready for that steak. You know, it's got something that needs a little boldness to it. Yeah.
Boldness to it.
I think the other thing that I've really found that goes really well with the Portuguese reds is like a caramelized nuts and cheese plate is also one of the things that they always serve in Portugal. So
Caramelized and also a little bit spicy. It could do that. It could do that too. Well, you've taken a great deal of care to create this portfolio. Wine Spectator has given your group of wines the highest marks at the best value in the last 5 years. How did you do that?
Well, we've done a vigorous process in selection, and we decided we're not going to just take anything, and we bring in the candidate wines that we're looking at. We go through a blind tasting process where every one of the wines is tasted against what we consider the best in the neighborhood. You know, the best that our local wine store would say, this is the best Portuguese Vinho Verde out there. We put it right next to the Clemen, and we have to beat that wine. And so that really gives us a validation that, you know, if it didn't beat it, then we need to go find another one. So we've kept looking for that, and we also look for wineries and regions and areas that are hot. And Portugal, with the economy in Spain and Portugal being a little lower, the dollar goes a long way over there these days. So, you know, that's why the real values jump out of the glass.
that we're enjoying. How can our viewers and listeners learn more about Marquis Selections?
Well, Marquis Selections, the Green Global Grapes portfolio is available in local retail shops, so all around the city. What we also have is a great website, www.marquis.com, and you can look us up there. It's got all of the wines, more of the wine education and information with food and wine pairings. We're available on phone at 888-MARQUEE, 888-627-7833, Marquis.
And also on your website, you can find a store that carries the Marquis wines that's near you.
Yes. We've got a section that shows and is dedicated to our local retailers and restaurants so that you can find out exactly where these are at. And if not, you can send us an email at info@Marquis and say, this is where I go, this is where Marquis needs to be.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting us into your cellar. We will invite you back to the cellar next week when we take a look at the wines from Spain.